again, we're going to talk about confidence because if someone tells me something, they're telling me what their offer is, it's not clear, or they're not sure about it. That's
Mm.
how it shows up.
Welcome back to the Marketing Freelancer. I'm your host, Emily Reagan, a fellow marketing freelancer. Yep, I started in 2007 when I wrote my first press release, and now I help my smart friends do freelancing work because it's game changing to be able to work during school hours, to add a side hustle, or to be able to pivot out of a career that you don't love, or jump back into work after a baby break or whatever kind of break. So if you're freelancing, this is the podcast for you. If you're curious and haven't started, you're also in good hands. So today I brought on one of my very own Workgroup members, Tyneshia Dise, to talk about her experience freelancing, growing an agency, what she's learned in working with clients, and also about spotting the emotional gaps in messaging. We're all over there with everything we're talking about because we can gain so much by learning from other freelancers who are just a few steps ahead of us. So hit subscribe so you don't miss another episode, and let's jump in. Anisha, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you here talking about DIY marketing, how to really step up our own services with our clients. You come from so much experience. You have an agency. Let's start at the beginning and how you got here into this freelance kind of, independent contractor world.
So my background is in sales. And just like a lot of individuals, I came from corporate and I started to get burnout and I started to ask myself questions. And I knew from working in sales, I said, I probably can bet on myself and do a little bit better. So I started to do that slowly. I started freelancing. Additionally, I went back to school for digital marketing and I slowly started forming my agency. I was a solopreneur for some time. I started doing some blog writing, graphic design, and things like that. Additionally, I knew networking was important as well. So I started just connecting with local communities and things like that. And then, just like most people, word of mouth. And then I began to look towards larger marketing opportunities and making larger connections.
So how long have you had your agency and how many people are on it?
Officially for 5 years, I've been freelancing for longer and I've got 4 team members now.
Oh my gosh. And I'm curious, from solo to having teammates, like how long did that take you to make that transition?
Honestly, earlier this year, because I knew I wanted to play bigger. And as I mentioned before, am kind of a deep thinker. So I like to know what I'm doing beforehand. And I like to have, as they say, all of my ducks in a row. I don't just like to make decisions loosely or without, again, thinking things through. And then also, too, definitely having the work to support the additional team members makes sense. And a big part
Yeah.
of that, honestly, was joining your group. The work group is phenomenal.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to ask you more questions about that because I did not throw that softball at you on purpose. But I'm kind of curious, like, what are your main services with your agency? I don't know if you knew this, but I used to have an agency in 2018. It was really rough. It was a year where I had little kids. The husband deployed for a year, and it was something I wasn't ready for. And so it was something I've thought about revisiting years later. But I think it's a lot of people want to get there and they're not there now. So it's like such an interesting conversation to have.
Absolutely. So, in terms of what I offer, I assist female founders with brand strategy as well as online visibility. I know that's marketing jargon. So the gist of it is I assist with the brand audits, just really examining their online presence, if they're showing up clearly, if their messaging is clear. Additionally, we build WordPress websites, courses in Kajabi, as well as Facebook and Google ads.
So are a lot of your clients in the online space? Are they corporate or
A little of both. My clients
okay.
are attorneys, wellness pros, financial professionals, and service-based providers. I do a little bit of e-com as well.
Okay, so back when you were a solopreneur, you were doing a
Mhm.
little bit of everything, which is what a lot of our listeners are doing now. They're kind of in the marketing department, figuring out their niche, picking it all out, and you have worked with a ton of clients where you realize, like, the DIY marketing is not working anymore, right? And so what are you seeing
Absolutely.
out there when your clients come to you? Like, what are they struggling with, and why are they hiring you?
A lot of people are spinning their wheels and they're doing the same thing. They think more activity equals more work. More people will, chat with me or reach out to do a discovery call. So I really subscribe to the theory less is more. So really scale back, analyze what you're doing and if it's purposeful and if you see an outcome. And that's where we start with our audit. So we're going to look at all of your online channels, all of your offers, and examine that customer journey thoroughly and see if it makes sense. Additionally, to one big channel, a lot of I think people sleep on is email marketing. And that's something that we work with as well, because that's how you're going to, again, make your connections, nurture those relationships. So, again, just doing an audit and examining your customer journey and where the gaps are. And then I feel like we're going to talk about another big gap shortly.
Yes, we are. I don't know. I feel like there's so many clients out there who think they know marketing, or if they did do marketing, they think they can do it. But when you look at that buyer's awareness journey, are like, what problems are they having where they know they need your help? I know, you're saying they're spread thin. They're probably trying to do like omnipresent everything. But like, what really are they experiencing?
It's missing the emotional connection with their clients. And again, I'm a big believer in active listening. So, in terms of when you're having a discovery call, strategy session, one on one, what have you, frankly, 80% of that conversation should be the individual speaking to you. You know what I mean? You're examining respectfully where those gaps are. And again, it's making sure that you're going from point A to point B with that particular client and really selling the transformation at the end. So people buy into feelings. That's the way we're built as human beings. So examining what is the emotion that their client has to go through and ensuring that you have an emotional connection. You're not robotic with your client.
Yeah, I hear about that from a lot of the Instagram coaches right now. Like the emphasis is on like emotional hooks and emotion on social media. I see that a lot when it comes to conversions. I think one of the cliche sayings is people buy from emotions, not necessarily logic. And so learning to see that emotional gap and how to fill it. I think that's like such a good skill that a marketing assistant can add in. I know as like the client facing, like we're drowning. We're just trying to like hit deadlines and keep the content going and then sometimes pass it over. And we need that extra like unicorn, magic dust from somebody who understands messaging, positioning, and can make it better. Right. So I think about emotions. It's hard. Do the clients even know they're missing emotions? Like, are they even self-aware? I was just thinking about how I hand over content sometimes to my team. Like, we don't always create it, like thinking about that.
I'm a big believer in reverse engineering. And then I will generally present scenarios and I'll say, well, you told me this, or reframe it. And sometimes, again, you'll have to say it a few different ways just for it to land. And again, I don't necessarily act, I'll marinate on something. So, and that's one thing I encourage as well. We don't have to make a decision right now. You know what I mean? We're not putting out
Yeah.
fires, but, you know what I mean? Let's think about this and then we'll put that plan into action. So again, just really thinking about what the offers are, the clarity, the offers must be crystal clear. Also, the experience. You think about the experience that your potential client may provide, and you
Mm.
examine that for the customer. And then also, too, like I said earlier, if you're spinning your wheels, that's a systems problem. So we have to go back and dissect where again that disconnect is. And then once you start to align all that, you get your audience reach, you'll start increasing your revenue.
Okay. And I think a lot of clients are probably experiencing right now just not as many sales. I mean, I feel like the digital course economy has changed and evolved, and it's probably what they're experiencing, but don't understand why? And I think you need that emotional connection even more than ever as in this trust recession and how we speak. Like I think about like the average faceless virtual assistant and their messaging is so vague, so not specific, and like they could do better when it comes to that. Okay, so how do we identify this emotional gap for our clients?
And just narrowing down that customer journey. Put yourself in that person's shoes and imagine how you would experience this. Another thing is ask your peers. Community is everything. You know what I mean? If you have a biz bestie or whomever, just say, hey, What do you think about this? Or how would you feel? You know what I mean? And then I would say get a group, depending on your time, of
Mhm.
maybe 5, at the most 10 individuals, because sometimes it gets messy. And just ask them, what do you think about this? How do you feel? Not only that, a lot of individuals are doing beta groups or beta testing for offers. That's another thing, depending if you're sure if you should launch it, maybe do it at a discounted price and then decide, and you can make tweaks along the way and you're still getting that feedback.
Yeah, I think that feedback loop is important. There's probably, tricks we can do in ChatGPT to kind of pull out those emotional drivers, but the best research is with the buyer or maybe the person who didn't buy as well.
Exactly.
And yeah, and it's not always sometimes like I go a little bit off gut because I don't have time, but have you used ChatGPT to kind of speed up uncovering that before?
Absolutely. And one thing I'm working on for my clients is building custom GPTs to help when we're writing their content.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I do for them. Additionally, while you're doing that beta offer, think about your framework. What are you setting up? What repeatable process are you creating that works and is in alignment for your client? It doesn't have to be perfect because, again, a lot of individuals won't move or breathe unless it's perfect. That's okay, and it's okay to have a work in process because it's going to get better over time as long as you're talking about it, as long as you're asking for feedback.
I think I like frameworks, and I feel like we need to bring a training into the work group, especially for this, because if we can think about it now early on with our clients, but I feel like a framework just had this conversation in my mastermind yesterday. We almost need to see a framework, like the logical part of our brain needs to be like, there is a
Mhm.
method to this madness. And I think one lady had shared her sales page and was just all over the place. And we're like, it's so all over the place and non-specific that we don't really see how you can accomplish this in the container that you gave us. And so I love a framework, but self-admittedly don't have my own. But I know it's so critical as a service provider and for our clients to have one for that
Mhm.
logical appeal. Like we want to know like it will fit together. We can actually like get the result and the transformation. And then it's so interesting because I still hear that we buy from emotions. I think they come together, don't you?
Exactly. No, I agree 100%. And if you think about it, scale it back. And for everyone, I always say, let's make this simple. When you're creating an offer, answer the questions: who you want to sell to, what it is, where is your offer, probably online, right?
Yeah.
And then you're thinking about also to the tech you want to use building around it, when you're going to launch, and then who, what, where, when, and then the why. Why does your audience want to buy from you?
I was just thinking about what those emotional drivers are and like really why we buy, right? There's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? And we have to like
Mhm.
satisfy the bare minimum when it comes to our safety. And then up at the top of the pyramid is these extra ones. And I'm like not the one to be teaching this, but I think we all kind of go through this with our marketing courses. But I know for people who buy UDMA school or, come into the work group, they are looking for confidence, right? Relief, the
Right.
pressure of not having to find clients or feel like they have to dance on TikTok to get
Mhm.
clients. There's always time savings, right? Time freedom. We sell that a lot to our clients. There's probably higher level statuses that we buy for our ego. Am I like missing anything that's obvious when it comes to emotional driver? Recognition,
Necessarily.
validation,
You hit a good
affirmation.
one with confidence. Also, too, people work with me because they want to be trusted online. And that's what it is. And this may, again, be marketing jargon, but people work with people they know, they like, and they trust. Again, looking at your Google reviews, if someone takes the time to tag you in a social post, I mean, that just goes, beyond. That goes far.
Yeah, yeah. I think about buyers right now and this economy and the way our online era is. Like I hear mixed things. I see some people struggling with launches or the old model might not work the same. People are pivoting and tweaking messaging and just getting clearer. I do hear of plenty of people like doing well too. I think it's a critical time where like the businesses that have it together are going to keep doing well and those that were kind of struggling and not really on solid foundations, they're the ones that are struggling. And I see a lot of people going back to 9 to 5s in this, like, creator world, right? So when it comes to our clients but I just think about the emotional driver of fear as well, and people kind of, like, fear right now, but I don't necessarily wanna always, like, pull that trigger. right? It's almost like pain point marketing. I'd rather do more of the transformational marketing and talk about like aspirationally, like what is possible? What can we get out of this than like stay in some of
Exactly.
those bad emotions? Are there other good emotions that we should maybe concentrate on?
It's a really good question.
I know I'm like thinking out loud, processing with you out loud right now, which is really fun.
Mm. No, absolutely. Any other emotions that are important, that are positive?
Women in my community, especially me going through a divorce, it's like control. It's financial independence. It's that feeling
Agree.
there's like a deeper desire there. And I think like that's what we're trying to tap into really.
So, to a mindset shift in general, like you said earlier,
Yeah.
going from the negative emotions to what's possible, because I think that some people will beat themselves up internally and sometimes they're afraid to speak out. You know what I mean? Like so many people will say, this is a dumb question. In my opinion, there is no question that's dumb. That's how some of the greatest ideas are born. Just say it. But at the same time, you have to have the right people around you and feel safe in your community. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's talk about like linking emotions with tangible outcomes because we know we've heard it on this episode. We talk about it in the work group. Previous episodes, we talked about like clients are buying results from us, but we're also clients are getting results for their clients, right? So it's like very
Mhm.
meta here. So, how can we link the two? Because emotion makes people drive, but we also need to be thinking in terms of outcomes.
Exactly. So I generally start out with, how do you want your client to feel when they work with you?
Mhm.
What is the outcome? And I don't want to sound generic and say you're selling, but it's more about, what do you want them to feel? So then we will again reverse engineer and outline the steps for them to gain that feeling. And marketing research is really huge with that as well. And then again, that's where we'll shift to the online messaging to make sure it's in alignment. Because to your point earlier, someone had this long sales page and it had nothing to do with what they were selling. So, and simplicity, less is more. It
Yeah.
really is.
Like, just being very clear, especially because we're all getting so busy, and I know if I see a long form sales page, I'm, like, glazing over. I'm like, "I don't have time to read this, like, give me the goods." But I'm actually, like, a very dominant buyer when it comes to that, so I'm digressing. Okay, so your background is in sales, so I know what we just talked about could probably apply to a sales call too, right? Like, reverse
Exactly.
engineering, like, that feeling. So how would that
Mhm.
work on a call, or what have you had success with when you're doing your own discovery calls?
In terms of a discovery call, and this is something I've practiced for years, definitely research the individual, learn as much as you can, research the online offers, and even just learning about their lifestyle in general, like what's important to them. You know what I mean? What can you bring to the forefront again that they're missing that you see? And honestly, for me, if I'm going through, things just pop out at me. They almost literally slap me in the face. I'll say, okay, someone needs to, for lack of a better term, change the messaging. This color, and it sounds silly, but this color isn't working for them. We need to put the call to action here. So it's just really, like I said, going through and doing that audit and
Yeah,
making sure they're achieving what they want to achieve. And then, two, you have to ask specific questions. You can't speak in terms of generality and just
yeah.
thinking about who their offer is for. You have to like literally go back, scale back, scale back. So hope that makes sense.
Yeah, you talked about something earlier, I think we should bring it back, is this active listening, right?
Mhm.
How do you do that in a sales call? I want you to tell me your quote about feelings close deals.
Absolutely. So, one thing I like to do again with AI is I will record the meeting summary, right?
Mhm.
Or if you're doing a recording transcript before you start to prepare a scope of work or a proposal or anything like that, watch that back and then just really understand where the person's coming from. If it's a lack of sales, they launched a course and it didn't work out, where there was a misstep.
Mhm.
So, and sometimes too, people are so, and I see this over and over again, buried in the work. They're not seeing that perhaps they may even be overworking. Again, less is more. So, where you can make the most emphasis with the most impact. And usually, like I said, it's just scaling back, making a plan, and committing to it. And online visibility, definitely with your social channels. Granted, you can't always sell from social, but your outward relationships as well. I'm a big person on relationships, but in terms of the discovery call to answer your question, learning as much about your potential client as you can and watching social cues, to be honest with you. This is what they told me, this is what you said, and I will rephrase it back. I'll say, here's what the challenge is and here's what we're going to do.
It sounds like it would be a good practice, like you said, to run that call through ChatGPT or Claude. I like ChatGPT for research, Claude maybe better for copywriting, but pull out the emotions of that call, and it sounds like you reflect it back to them in the proposal, because I think it's so hard in the call to, like, remember what you're gonna say, be
Mhm.
active listening, writing it down. I was just thinking of one call I was on where she was taking so many notes that she was so disconnected from me, and it didn't feel like a conversation, so it's, like, such a funny, careful balance, but if you could run it back through ChatGPT, pull out the emotion, then you can link it.
Exactly. And I will say during discovery calls, I don't write anything down. I rely on the AI because it's so specific, because I want to be engaged. You know what I mean? They're the
Yeah.
most important person in the room, and I won't miss anything. So I have seen that. You got your head down, not you, but individuals, and you're
Yeah,
just
yeah.
writing. You're missing it, you
Yeah, and you're
know?
missing the social cue, right? The
Exactly.
face, the
Mhm.
little hesitation, the
Exactly.
nervousness. Do you have
And
any
that's
questions?
another thing too. People come to you and they'll say, "Okay, this is the problem I'm having." But you start to ask more questions, you find out it's something else. You know what I mean? Is
Yeah.
the root cause of it, and you work on that, and then you start to see the results.
I feel like you, because you come from sales, have good questions to ask or like lead-ins. Like I know like sometimes I was just telling you, I'll leave my body like when I'm speaking and like I'm like worried about the next word that's gonna come or how am I gonna finish up that sentence so I sound intelligent and articulate. But I think if we had a couple like questions we could ask just to like A buy time. Actually,
Mhm.
I'm gonna digress. I was asking my divorce lawyer, I was like, how do you get through court? Like, to me, I thought about being a lawyer. I took the
Mhm.
LSAT, and I think that fear of speaking in front of others, like having to be on your feet. And I was like, how do you do that? We were preparing for court. We didn't have to go to court. And he's like, well, I just buy time by asking more questions. And then my brain can catch up and think. And I was like, that's freaking brilliant. Like, we need to do that on discovery calls. So that was like my whole backstory. So do you have any questions that can buy yourself time, but also like help uncover that like that need and that emotion?
I ask people what's holding you back. What is the outcome you'd like to see? Also, too, since I work with ads and things like that, the data. And as
Yeah.
we know, numbers tell a story. And I can
Yeah.
see from what they share is how things have missed the mark, if you will. And again, what we need to do to fix it.
Yeah.
And
Do you
sometimes it's
ever
a tech challenge, sometimes it's a strategy challenge.
Yeah. And is there anything that gives you, like, a flag that it's a messaging problem when just, like, in a conversation with them without looking at anything? Do you ever, like can you ever feel like it's that?
Again, we're going to talk about confidence, because if someone tells me something, they're telling me what their offer is, it's not clear, or they're not sure about it. That's
Mm.
how it shows up.
I like that you're, like, reading between the lines there, that's good. Yeah, if someone's kind of, like, stuttering or what if we talk really fast, something I do, like, it can show that you're not actually confident.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Oh, I kind of like thinking about the discovery calls and how to bring it back to emotion just because I think that's, like, really
Mhm.
applicable for everyone listening. Okay, so is there anything that you wish your clients did better with marketing, like, on their own?
Consistency.
Yeah, tell me more about it.
Because sometimes people are looking for big results quickly.
Mhm.
And in my opinion, the average marketing campaign, depending on what you're doing, you're looking at a 60 to 90-day turnaround time. You've got to invest the time, you've got to educate your audience, literally going through that sales funnel. And depending on what your marketing initiative is, reaching people that are top of funnel, you can do it, but you still have to go through the process. There's no magic formula. You know what I mean? I can't
Yeah.
wave a magic wand and say, "Boom, you have customers or clients." So, going through the process, trusting the process, not micromanaging. You know what I mean? You hired an expert for a reason. That's definitely something as well, but just waiting the time. You know what I mean? And listening to feedback. Just trusting the process and being open. Because often we'll listen, but we'll default to our old habits. But, you know what I mean? But I did this. But so and so did this. But my sister told me this. Or, but my daughter has a marketing
Mhm.
degree. How come you didn't hire her?
Yeah. Okay. I have a question about your marketing degree. So you said you went back. Like, where did you go for marketing? Did you go get another degree, or did you do a different type of training, or what did you do to go back and add that skill?
It was really interesting. My uncle was a lifelong learner, and we were very, very close. And he
Hmm.
literally was attending school until he was 70, and he went to an online school.
Okay.
And I don't know if I can say this, it's Franklin University, but they've got
Yeah.
online degrees. So I worked full time. I would go to school full time. And then I started doing some internships at a local marketing agency and then at a Fortune 500 company just to get that experience. But I had a wonderful time at Franklin University. Additionally, what I love is all of the professors, they work in the field. And again, they work for some big companies and they let you know what was going on. And we did a
Ooh.
lot of practice. So very current. I can't say enough good things about it.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. And how long did that degree take you?
4 years.
Okay. Wow, that's dedication to, like, see the pivot, to see the demand over there and be doing that on the side?
Yeah.
Wow.
I like to stay busy though. I like to keep my mind busy, and it's interesting to me. If I am engaged mentally and invested, then forget about it. I can lose hours, especially if I'm doing design. I can look down, you know what I mean, be working, then look up for my computer for hours have passed by.
I'm the same. I'm working on a client sales page right now, and I'm, like, itching to get back to it. I have, like, 2 sections left, but yeah, I can just the whole day will just go, and it's, like,
Exactly.
actually a good feeling because you're so
Exactly.
into it and you're
Mhm.
I'm feeling like the work is worth it, and I'm having an
Mhm.
impact through that, and I'm making it better, like, I like that feeling in my
Exactly.
work. What would you tell someone who's thinking about adding marketing who doesn't have the degree?
Well, today we live in a society where people are getting experience versus degrees, and you're seeing a lot of 9 to 5s hire now for experience. And if you're an adult learner, colleges are accepting work experience. So I would say find, some networking opportunities and start to freelance. I will say this, think about your rates and value your time, so sometimes people will charge when they first start out what they're not how do I wanna say this? They don't charge what they're worth, right? You
Yeah.
still deserve to be paid, but just get out there, make connections, ask questions, be curious.
How did you get that internship? Did you have a way in? Did you put yourself out there? Is there a story there?
In terms of the internship, I just reached out directly. That was for the smaller agency, and I
Mhm.
liked working at the smaller agency because I had more one-on-one, and my WordPress skills really started to expand and take off, and there was a lot of clarity around that. In terms of the larger internship, a connection, you know what I mean? So and it just kind of happened organically, which was nice.
Did you ask for the connection or, like, how did that work? I
Someone
was just thinking.
offered. I said
Oh,
someone
okay.
offered. I said, "This is what I'm looking to do," and she told me, she said, "Hey, I know someone," and then made the introduction, who made that introduction, and I was there.
It's so fun to hear that story just because that's kind of the reason I started my own, network online. The work group is I know how hard it is to start when nobody knows who you are and you're proving yourself. And it can be as simple as an introduction to the right
Mhm.
person. I mean, that's how it works in the real world, but it also is in the online space. Like you talked about social proof and like people need to know, like, and trust you and all of that. And that still applies when you are the contractor in somebody's business too. So it's fun to hear that. Do you have any advice for someone listening who hasn't gotten their first clients or is thinking about how do I get that first one?
Don't be afraid to ask for help. With your community or immediate community, don't be afraid to ask. So, the worst thing someone can say is no. That's okay.
Yeah.
And from being in sales, I've learned that rejection is a part of life, keep asking because you will eventually get a yes. And I'm sure that sounds like a cliche.
Have you ever been rejected or have you ever not landed a
There's
client?
There was a time where I competed for an is it an RFO? Proposal for work? I'm horrible with acronyms. For a nonprofit. So, I got very close, you know what I
Ah,
mean, was in the final stretch, 1 of 3, but it didn't work out. It wasn't meant to be, and I'm one that believes in divine timing. What's meant for you, you will, attract. So, but don't give up, and someone else told me this too, a lot can happen in 7 days, and as an entrepreneur, we all know about that roller coaster. So, on Tuesday, something can look like not great, but the next following Wednesday, you can be like, "Oh, I got clients," or "I have a connection." There always, in my opinion, is a reason to smile, and I'm a huge advocate on fun. Because think about it, you like to work with fun people. Would you wanna work with someone that's dry, that is boring? No. If you're fun and you can make someone laugh, why not? And then also too, you're not so serious. For me as a creative ideas come in and great results follow.
oh my gosh, I love that. And if someone like you who's so accomplished, has experience, has had a no or not you, I think everyone else can sigh a relief because it's gonna happen. It's also part of the job. I've also not booked clients. I've also been hired by clients who were unhappy for whatever situation, whether it was my fault or not, and it's just part of it. And so I think, I don't know, I'm gonna tie that back into emotion, but not taking it so like personal, right?
Exactly. No, 100% because you can, and you can start to think negatively about yourself or say, I'm going to close my business. I'm going back to 9 to 5 because this is easier. I,
I
I
mean,
think
I have those thoughts, I'm not gonna lie. I do have them. Okay, you were saying before our call too about making business decisions, like, I just wanna keep the emotion talking going. You were saying you're, like, slower at making those decisions, you're very intentional, you're very careful, you're not gonna, like, waste your time and everyone else's time going down the wrong path. Not that there's anything wrong with, making mistakes, but talk to me about what you see when emotions come in the way, because I know you see it with your clients too.
exactly. When you've tried something time and time again and it didn't work, or it's 2 weeks and you've wanted to see results, or this happens when someone says they've worked with a marketing professional and didn't receive results.
Yeah.
So, you have to regain that trust and really examine, 1, if the relationship it will be or is a good relationship for you and the client to work together. Because sometimes it may not be just because of the preconceived notions.
Like,
So, not only that, do it the old fashioned way. Get a piece of paper, make 2 columns, pros and cons. And
yeah.
then also to think about the emotional retainer, if you will, because
Mm,
you can be drained and people, for lack of a better term, can drain you. So think about it. Is it worth it? And sometimes, we make decisions too because we need the money, but think about long term. Think about if, like I said, next week you'll get 2 more clients or things like that. Think about the shift and all this goes through my mind. It really
yeah.
does. The emotional toll. So
Yeah, and then there's that emotional opposite, which I don't have a smart word for, but when we're making impact and feeling really good about our work. So, do you have any big client wins you wanna share with us and, like, talk about what you've been doing behind the scenes?
absolutely. So, one thing I shared with you, I am in the process of growing my team. So,
Mhm.
I'm getting more clients, which is excellent. So, I've got help with video editing, graphic design, and things like that. Also, too, like I said, working on the custom GPTs for clients.
Yeah,
Excited about that. I'm
that's
also
cool.
expanding my creativity business. That's something that's coming out as well. And I'm looking to and this is later on next year because I do my planning for the year ahead now. I'm looking to start, speaking opportunities, so that's something that's always made me nervous,
Yeah.
but I am going to look past that, my fear, and, start to do that.
Yeah, well, you've already been on podcasts, you're on this one. We try to give those opportunities too to our work group members. So if there's something you wanna talk about specifically, as you're developing your framework or I don't know, it could be anything even related to AI that's helpful. We always ask members to come in and do, a walkthrough, do a talk, do a training, but I still remember my first guest talk and it
Mhm.
was inside a huge community. Huge, huge, huge.
Mhm.
It was about Google Analytics, which I feel like I'm always gonna feel underqualified to talk about. I mean, don't ask me
It
to talk about
changes every day. It's you
yeah,
can't keep
or
up.
don't ask me to talk about it now, and so, like, I way over prepared. I was so nervous, but once I had that down, it was like a whole new Emily emerged,
Uh,
who was not just a freelancer, but kind of a I know you're not supposed to call yourself an expert, like, "I'm a marketing expert, like, look at this," and sometimes, I don't know, it just felt really good, and this audience just needed a fraction from Google Analytics, like, they didn't even need to know everything, and so it actually really paid off. I think that was one of my big, like, leap forward moments with speaking, and it was to non-marketers, so that was kind of like a safe community. So I hope you
mhm.
do this. I hope you continue to do this. Before we wrap it up, I wanna hear about your agency experience and what you've learned along the way, because I know we have a lot of listeners who are in the solo, trenches, and they're thinking about, like, "How do I onboard a contractor and a subcontractor and, like, start getting help with some of this work," whether it's client facing or whether it's inside the workflow. But first, will you tell us a little bit about your experience in the work group and what you have gotten out of it as a new member? You joined this year.
Absolutely. The work group has been amazing. It's been a very warm experience because you and I had connected online, I think the year before. I asked questions before
You
about the
did.
work group. And like you said, there are opportunities to educate, which are awesome. And it's a part of the membership, which I love because often you'll pay for memberships and not get a lot from it. But from your
Mhm.
membership, it's excellent. Additionally, there are courses that are educational, which I love. And in terms of booking clients, let me get to the nuts and bolts of this. I have had, since we worked together, it's been 6 months, I've had 10 discovery calls and I've booked 6 clients. And the thing about it is you have so many jobs that post each month. These are the jobs that I said, they're in alignment for me. I'm going to reach out to this individual because you make it so easy. You don't have to, apply for a certain amount of jobs a month. You don't have to do this. And
Yeah.
you make it so easy. I just love it. So I can't say enough
That's
good things about
great.
it.
I had no idea you book 60% of your calls. I mean, that's crazy for sales.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh. Would you be okay sharing, like, a number with me? Like, what I'm curious about is that payback period, because now that it is, like, an annual membership, sometimes people are scared to make the investment. Like, how quickly did you make back your money in the work group?
My first job. Literally, you told me that, and then I was hesitant. It again, just getting in alignment, I needed to make my decision, and to be honest, let me see, I probably 4 times the investment, if I'm not mistaken, 4 or 5 times with that first job.
Just that one client?
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Is there anything you did to, get that client? Is there anything special you did? I mean, you're primed, you're set up, you've got a really good website, you've got experience, but was there anything that, like, a little hint you can give to someone who is trying to book a client too?
In terms of the email when you reach out,
Mhm.
that's the key. And for a couple times, I did have some challenges. I wasn't getting bites back when I would send that email, and I thought about it. I rephrased some of my wording based on the tasks or what the individual needed help with, and from there, it just works. One thing I do as well, I always include my calendar link and the link to my socials in all of my emails, and also my Google reviews. That really helps. So literally, I make it easy for them. Hi, my name is so and so. Heard about you through Emily Reagan's work group. I can support you with this, this, and this, and all my links. And
Yeah, it's actually super simple. You'd be surprised how many people I don't know if I should say this on the show, but, like, have typos or, like, don't do the research or leave off their booking link, and you do have to have that solid, sales process, right? I also saw on your website when I was scouting you, you do have those Google reviews. Like, how do you do that? Tell everyone how you do that, because I don't think I've seen another service provider really step up their Google business profile like you have.
narrative, and it's actually part of my service offerings. That's where you get found. What's the first thing people do? And there's also, speaking of GPTs, what is it? Getting recognized online for AI because you can come up in the searches as well. That's another topic. But it's just something that's important, updating what is it? The image is there. You can have products on your Google listing. You can have your social, what is it? Social links on the Google reviews. And then I ask my clients, when the contract is close to closing, I'll say, hey, do you mind? And here's the thing, I've established that rapport. They're more than happy, to leave that review. And sometimes you have to gently nudge. I just gently nudge. But again, I make it easy. I put the link in my email and then that's it. They do it.
Maybe that should be our work group training, like, super easy, but it's like sometimes Emily cracking the whip and telling people to actually do it, and, everyone wants to do it right the first time, but I was just talking to another service provider. So, like, I'm in the hallways and I hear all the whispers and I hear about the courses and the service providers on the team, and I'm, like, in a very privileged area where I get to hear both sides of the story. Someone was telling me, and I will not say who, she's like, "Yeah, but check out her course. There's 0 testimonials. There's 0 reviews. Like, why would anyone pay that?" And I thought, "Oh my god, in this day and age, like, having a good, marketer on your team, that's like step number." I'm not gonna say 1, but it's close to up there. It's like, we gotta get a system for collecting these this day and age, and we can't forget it for our own business. But it was so interesting to hear the little conversation about that and that people notice.
Mhm. Oh, 100%. It's the first thing so many people look for.
Yeah, yeah. I always coach people at the beginning. I'm like, if you don't have one for your services, you do what you did. You do the internship, you do the work in exchange for a testimonial, but you can also go back to former colleagues, former clients, former bosses,
Exactly.
especially if you have a good rapport, and you can get a testimonial about your work ethic or like very much like tangential to your current service. And that is a great place to start, but you shouldn't have like 0. You shouldn't put it out there with 0.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, this is so fun. I wanna hear a little bit about your agency and, like, lessons you've learned. If you had any advice for somebody starting to think about subcontracting, like, what can they do now to get ready for that agency level? Because that is one of the ways that freelancers make 6 figures, that it's
Mhm,
like there's no gatekeeping here. An agency is a way to pull yourself out of the work, focus on the, higher value services and get
mhm,
help with some of the other things, or bring on specialists like you have to be able to provide
mhm.
a full package. So what could somebody do now to prepare for that?
Absolutely. The first thing, implement good systems and have a really good onboarding experience because if you start to scale and don't have excellent systems in place, your client experience is going to decline. So it'll fall through the cracks. People will feel that. And again, onboarding is everything because that sets the tone for what you're working time together will look like. That's important. Also, do check-ins with clients. Hey, I just want to check on you. How's this going? Like, ensure that throughout their experience, you don't ghost them. You know what I mean? They're like looking like, where's so and so? They're supposed to be helping me. And also to lean on your biz besties. I'm all for biz bestie because collaboratively and having that community, all of your experience combined will definitely, support you and help you grow as well. And you're getting advice, people can share how they've scaled or what worked for them or what not to do. So that would
You
be
know
my
what?
3 things.
I had Tasha Booth on the show, and I think she said something I hadn't heard before. This is quite a few episodes ago. She had mentioned starting with an ops person, like, for your first
Mhm.
hire. Do you have any strong feelings about who that first teammate should be as a marketing agency?
Whatever is a good fit for your business. It depends too on your personality. For me, I'm pretty organized, so I, look over all of my contracts, all of my proposals and things like that. I write all those. Some people choose to delegate, but however what's best for you, I'll say that.
Okay. Yeah, like, for me, that was the bookkeeper because bookkeeping,
Mhm.
sending invoices was taking up just too much time out of the month. And I like money, and I like seeing it add up, but I needed to be very careful about my time, and I needed to do, like, the client deliverable, and that was my choice. So,
Okay.
no, I like your answer. I approve.
Oh,
I mean,
thank
I
you.
like Tasha's too. She's more of an ops person, so I understand her reasoning. I think she was saying, think about, like, not necessarily the client-facing work. She was thinking more in terms of, like, account management. So I thought that was
I
interesting.
agree
Okay,
with the bookkeeper for sure. That's like the one of the backbones. So I agree.
yeah, yeah. Is there anything that you would like other freelance marketers to know before we wrap this up?
Just keep working on your craft, keep educating yourself, remain curious, read books, join communities.
Yes. Well, I like that answer because I know it's a lot for one person to do on their own, and it's so good to be a part of a community where other people are nerding out and talking about it and keeping you in the update. And I know client management and what to do in sticky situations. I look back when I was a solopreneur and putting up with things that I didn't know. It's a different day and age, but I didn't know that I didn't have to work like that.
Agree. Agree.
Yeah. And that's what happens when we started a while ago. Now we know better.
Exactly, exactly.
All right. This was so good, Tanisha. Thank you for coming on the show and sharing your knowledge. And what is the best place to reach out to you? And where can we refer our clients to?
Absolutely. So I'm on LinkedIn. Feel free to send a DM or on my website. My email, also, there's a form there. It comes right to me. So love to connect.
Okay. Tell us about the freebie that you have for our audience.
There are a few freebies on my Instagram, but there's one about email automation that's excellent. So it's an ebook, it's free, it's like 67 pages. It gives you all the nuts and bolts about your email marketing and being consistent with an email newsletter.
And we'll put the link in the show notes so you guys can download it. Do you have a favorite email service provider? I know you're on WordPress. I know you like Kajabi. What's your favorite email platform?
My gosh, ConvertKit all day. Oh, now it's Kit. They're cool.
Yeah.
So definitely ConvertKit. I love it. Oh, I said it again. Kit.
Yeah, and I've referred you for kit jobs, so I like
Mhm,
hearing that, and I think it's important that freelancers work in tech and specialize in the top
mhm,
tier programs, and a lot of people use Kit, so I think that's a good one, so, all right, well,
mhm.
we'll catch you over on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for sharing on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Okay, I hope you take the time to download that freebie about email automation, connect with Tanisha on LinkedIn, and let's get her to come into the work group and do a talk on something. So, what do you want to hear? What other questions do you have? Send me a DM on Instagram at Emily Reagan PR, and I will pull a training out of her and we'll get her speaking more. This is what the work group is about, having these opportunities, yes, to be featured on the podcast, of course, but be featured within communities to book more gigs. When you come into the work group, you take a assessment and it tells you which phase you're in. And a lot of our marketing freelancers are well established in their services but need help with their own marketing and their own visibility. And we want to give you those opportunities in the work group. We have trainings on how to market yourself. We have the speaking opportunities. And we also have this sister service provider community where we can pull each other in and refer each other. So, yes, there's job leads, but it's so much more than that when it comes to growing your business. And if you're like Tunisia and you want to grow an agency, this is also a great place to start because you can reach down, pull up a subcontractor, maybe someone who just graduated from Unicorn Digital Marketing Assistant School and is ready to take on their clients. So, I hope you consider joining the work group. We are taking applications. We onboard a couple new members every month. I would love for it to be you. Get your application in now because we're going to see a surge of jobs in January. We do every single year. And I want you in, onboarded, and ready to book the paying clients. Again, I'm Emily Reagan. Please reach out to me on Instagram. I want to hear from you. Was this episode helpful? Do you have ideas for more content? Do you have a question for me? I have a whole Ask Emily anything series, well, anything about work. You can leave a 90-second question on SpeakPipe and I could make it into a podcast episode. All right, I'll see you in the next one.